which type of comms is the best for you?
This is King 1906, a member of Charter Kings and also their communication coordinator. Today, we're going to talk about the difference between FRS, GMRS, and ham radio, and which one is actually best for you. So again, some people think FRS is best for them, but have no idea what it truly is. Some people think GMRS is best for them, but don't know what that truly means. And then some say, no, go ham, which in this case could be a good one. But what we're going to do now is going to break down each one of these and figure out which one is actually best for you.
So the question again is FRS, GMRS, or ham radio, which one is actually the best fit for you? Now, when we're talking about this, we're going to have an outline of what we call FRS, which is Family Radio Service, GMRS, which is going to be General Mobile Radio Service, Amateur Radio, which is ham, Hybrid Radio, which are your bubble wraps that you see frequently in Walmart, things of that nature. They're going to be FRS/GMRS. And what frequencies would you be on if you're looking at FRS, GMRS, and which one is actually best for you? Now, when it comes to Family Radio Service, or what we call FRS, this one, there is no license needed at all. This is just your regular walkie-talkie, the little small bubble wrap one that you actually see at Walmart. These are handheld, compact, and a wireless two-way radio. They're relatively short distance or short range of motion, but they have good clarity. Now, what we say about that when we say short range of motion is you may get half a mile, if that, when it comes to this type of radio, because again, these are what we call line of sight. So they have to be able, one radio antenna has to see the other radio antenna to actually have good communication. So with that, if they're not in sight, or what we call LOS, it is very difficult for those two radios to actually communicate to each other. Now, this type of radio service, FRS, is license free. So you don't have to take any type of test, and no type of license is actually required for this. Now, looking up here, these are different types of FRS radios, or your family radio service. These are different types. Again, they're unlicensed walkie-talkies. Again, like I said before, they're wireless, handheld, compact, two-way. Good for small or short range. You have the Garmin, the ICOM, the Midland, Cobra, Unidine, and Motorola. So if you notice, they all have one thing in common. They have a fixed antenna. So these are your FRS radios. Unlike a CB, because you see them in the big rigs all the time, breaker 19 or so forth. Unlike CBs, we'll call citizen bands, ham radios, and most other tour radios that are no license require you to use an FRS radio. That means they have to have a fixed antenna. There are no fees for usage, airtime, per call charges, anything of that nature. Just got to make sure that the battery is charged and you're good to go. GMRS is your General Mobile Radio Service. It does require a license, but getting the license is relatively easy. At the time of this video, the license costs about $70 for 10 years, but we noticed that they have now changed it to where it's only $30 for 10 years, and it's good for the entire family. Your GMRS radios provide very good quality or clarity over a slightly larger or longer range. So instead of, you can say half a mile, you may be able to get a mile depending on the terrain and the range that you're communicating on. And again, these are handheld, these are portable, similar to that of the FRS radios, and they pretty much share some of the same frequencies. Now, one key features or several key features about GMRS, they are channelized. So that means they have preset channels. What that means is of the radio frequencies that you're using, 15 are dedicated. So basically channels 1 through 7 and channels 15 through 22 are dedicated for both FRS and GMRS. And I like these because they're quiet and clear, and because of the actual frequency we'll call FM modulation instead of the amplitude modulation. Now, if you want to know the difference between those two, more or less get in a ham radio, you'll be able to identify that. GMRS, like I said before, have slightly a longer range. In an ideal environment where you're on hills, there are no obstructions at all, you can get about 1 to 2 miles because you're typically transmitting on 1 to 5 watts. But again, because it is a small antenna and some of them are removable, some are fixed, that you may not truly get that range. One thing to note, GMRS base stations can have power up to 50 watts on channels 15 to 22 and may use an external gain antenna. It's intended for use by individuals who possess a valid GMRS license, as well as his or her immediate family members. So again, One person in that immediate family can get that actual radio or that GMRS license, and that's all that they need. Then the entire family after that can actually communicate on that. So again, immediate relatives of the GMRS station license are entitled to communicate among themselves for personal or business purposes. Employees or friends of that licensee who are not family members may not use this service. So it's not like you can have a club on it. You can have your immediate family, which FCC defines as a spouse, children, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, nephews, nieces, and in-laws. However, everything else, or what we say employees and friends, are not able to actually communicate on that. And like I said before, the FCC has gotten rid of it where GMRS licenses are not available for clubs or groups. Your amateur radio, or what we call your ham radio, you do require a license. It's an FCC license as well, similar to that of the GMRS. Now, this one is very unique because in order to get this license, you must pass a test. And there are different levels to hams. You have the technician, you have the general, and you have the amateur extra. Each level has a certain frequency or certain bands that you can communicate on. So as you move up, you will unlock more frequencies. So basically a general and an amateur extra can talk on what we call HF or high frequency, which means you can communicate with people in different countries because you're hitting the ionosphere, whereas your technician pretty much relies on the repeater. Now, similar to that of the GMRS, similar to the technician wise as well, because again, you're relying on a repeater. However, when it comes to ham radio, if you have a general license or an amateur extra license, you can use HF, which is very useful. One thing to note is that CERT teams, these are specific CERT critical response teams. They often use ham radios or handheld devices, what we'll call handy talkies, on a 2-meter band or a 440 band. Now, when it comes to that, they have designated frequencies. So if you remember like Hurricane Katrina, Gustav Ike, or any type of natural disasters, and communications going down, it's pretty much your ham or your amateur radio operators are the ones that's taking the lead. And from personal experience, because I am a radio operator or a ham radio operator with a general license, and the Tribe of Kings do have their own call sign. So we can actually communicate on HF, or what basically we can communicate on a general license because I'm general licensed. So when it comes to this, we can communicate to people in different countries if that's what we choose. However, for us, the way we use it is we have different tribes. So one tribe can actually communicate with another tribe with an HF radio, which is good because, again, in natural disaster, things of that nature, we can communicate to each other, check on each other, and make sure we hit our checkpoints at specific times. Now, when it comes to natural disasters, ham operators, like stated before, are the ones that are first to respond out. So they have designated frequencies, and they will use HF and HF antennas as well. So they have designated frequencies on both the 2-meter band, the 440 band, and HF. And they're the ones that have priority, and they will be communicating until all other comm has been up. Once other comm has gone up, they would then begin to step back. Comparison of your FRS, which is located here, GMRS, and ham. Notice the difference between the antennas. Notice that for your FRS, it's a fixed antenna. GMRS, most of them are fixed, but you have some that are removable. However, for the ham radio, you have a removable. In addition to that, notice that on the front of the FRS and GMRS, you're not able to program frequencies in. That's because they have designated ones, 1 through 7 and 15 through 22. However, if you notice for the ham radio, you can program your frequencies in. Notice the range, 0.5 to 1 to 2, and ham radio, approximately 5 miles or more. Price-wise as well when it comes to these radios. Now, FRS does not require a license. However, FCC license is required for both the GMRS and the ham. The only difference is GMRS, you do not have to take a test. You can apply for your license, you get your license. However, for ham, you must take the test in order to obtain your license. Dual service and hybrid radios, FRS, GMRS, what we talk about when we say dual service. That means these radios will cover both FRS channels and GMRS channels. So if you notice, FRS channels are 1 through 14, GMRS channels are 1 through 7, and 15 through 22. So you notice they cross over each other Hence the reason they call them dual service or hybrid. These radios may be used without a license if the FRS channels are the ones you're actually communicating on. Now, if you're going to communicate on the GMRS, which is channels 1 through 7, 15 through 22, you must have that GMRS license. But if you're only doing FRS, you can communicate without a license. However, you must transmit at a very low power of half a watt, which honestly, that's such a low power. It is going to be very difficult to get a signal out to talk to another radio unless you're pretty much just standing side by side. This is a chart that shows all the frequencies available for both FRS, GMRS, and the ones that actually combine together. So if you notice, you have 462, 5625, and these are all FRS, GMRS shared frequencies over here on the left side. Notice you can transmit at a maximum power of 5 watts. However, for FRS only, because again, there's no license that's required, you can only transmit at half a watt. Notice the frequencies as well. And both FRS and GMRS have frequencies pre-programmed to their radios. On the far right side, these are your GMRS frequencies only, and a lot of these you can transmit up to 50 watts if you have that base station. So notice some of these frequencies actually cross over because again, they share them. So that's one thing you need to understand if it comes to FRS, GMRS. They share frequencies, so you will need a license if you want to transmit on GMRS. However, if you're on FRS, you don't need a license at all. For FRS, like we stated before, family radio service, when it comes to this, when no license is required. The pros of this: simple operation, inexpensive, plentiful, which means they're always available, no license required, like stated before. They share frequency with GMRS. Some of the cons or downfall of that is poor range in urban areas. And you notice most of our environments are going to be urban areas. So if you're trying to transmit on FRS, you can hang it up. They're not usually rugged or waterproof. And again, if you're using these when camping, hunting, or, shit hit the fan or something of that nature, these are not the best radios for you. Now, they do use them for certain type of training events, such as intra-field team communication and stationary communications. Other than that, they pretty much go what we'll call the GMRS. And you notice for your GMRS, when it comes to this one, you do have to have a license. Again, said before, that has to be corrected. At the time of this recording, they have now dropped it to $30 for 20 years. I'm sorry, $30 for 10 years. Now, the pros of this: simple operation, inexpensive, plentiful, shares frequencies. So FRS shares frequencies, pro-grade radio available. So that means you have more of a sturdy radio. License required, but there is no test. You still do have a limited range in the urban areas because of the buildings, trees of that nature. And there may be some interference from other FRS, GMRS frequencies, because again, you're going to be using these with other people. So you might end up on the same frequency, or if somebody's transmitting on a higher power than they're supposed to, that will bleed over. Now the uses: command field team communications, intra-field team communications, stationary logistics, things of that nature. When it comes to this, we're talking about triage when there's mass casualty or something of that nature. Or if they're dealing with like a marathon or something of that nature, that's pretty much what they're using. This one we'll call the amateur radio. They're licensed anywhere from $14 to $20. It's good for 10 years. Let's say you do have to take a test to actually get the license. So understand that in order to get a ham or amateur radio license, because they come in 3 different levels: technician, general, amateur extra, that you must take a test each time to upgrade to the next level. Again, I stated before, as you upgrade to the next level, you unlock more frequencies. The pros of this are quality construction, because again, you're going to pay more money. Compatibility with city systems. So again, a lot of us work with the city, so we're able to jump on their frequencies. Many of the frequencies means that you go longer ranges. So that means line of sight, or even jumping on a repeater. You also have powerful mobile and base stations available. So again, you can push out more because again, these are base stations, so you can push out more watts. The cons of this: complicated operation, because it takes a little time to figure them out. Because if you take a look at this radio in the top right corner, you notice here, this is an icon, a very good radio. Now, push buttons, so you have a lot of things to play with. So one of these you have to actually read the owner's manual to understand. Same thing with the bottom right, this icon. You have to read the owner's manual to understand how to work it if you're not familiar with it. So they do have a complicated operation. Exam is required and is expensive. So again, getting the ham radio is expensive, but we know that getting into any hobby and being true to that hobby is going to be expensive. Uses of ham radio, again, like we said before, command, EOC, fire management, things of that nature, field team, health and welfare, natural disasters, FEMA. A lot of the FEMA people or FEMA operators are ham radio operators. I've trained them myself personally to help them get their tests. So again, yes, ham is a good way to go. I hear you, but which one is good for you? Now, I can't personally answer that. It is based on what your needs are. If your needs are just to be in the local area, FRS, GMRS is an excellent way to go. If you want to push further out there to cover longer distances, I recommend ham. Yes, you have to study for the test. Yes, you unlock more frequencies as you move up a level. But if you're truly looking for a shit hit the fan scenario or instance, ham radio is the best to go. It is perfect to have your GMRS license first. That way you can get used to working those radios. And then when you have time, start preparing yourself for ham. That way you have best of both worlds. Let's say you want to create a group of your own. If you want to create a group of your own, then you're looking at having only one person truly test for general or advanced, and everybody else in that group, because you can make it a club, can then work on that license, which is perfect. You all will use the same call sign. So there's nothing wrong with that. So again, which one is best for you is based on your conditions, your situation, or whatever. I highly recommend go GMRS to have that license. And then when you get time, go ahead and begin studying for your ham. It is good to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it.
We will be offering a virtual technician course Wednesdays only starting February 1st through March 29th from 8:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. Cost is only $45. If you're interested in this course or have any questions about this course, email us at whitesidetacticalsolutions@gmail.com. All other questions, please email us at atribeofkings@gmail.com. This is Kane 1906 signing off.